Today is #Wear Blue Day, also known as Human Trafficking Awareness Day. January is Human Trafficking Awareness Month. This is important because Houston is a hotspot for human trafficking. KPRC2 Community is spotlighting one local nonprofit fighting abuse in our area. Joining me now from Elijah's Rising is Development Director Courtney Ritter and Communications Director David Gamboa. Good morning to you both.
Good morning. Thank you for having us this morning.
Absolutely.
Yes, good morning.
Okay, Courtney, I want to start with you. Elijah's Rising has been in Houston since 2012, so 12 years. What does the nonprofit do, and how and why did it get its start?
So thank you so much for having us. We really appreciate you. Elijah Rising did get our start about 12 years ago. We started actually as a prayer movement to fight human trafficking in the spiritual realm. We quickly realized the need to actually get some boots on the ground. So that's when our van tours started. They were kind of raw then. We would get people in a van for hours sometimes and take them around so that people are educated and aware about the fact that human trafficking is happening all over the city of Houston and the surrounding areas. Those van tours are still going on to this day. We streamlined them. They're about an hour and a half. We want the community to be aware that this is a serious issue and there are things that the average citizen can do. So we still do the van tours. We still do other awareness events. We still pray. We also go out on interventions. We reach out to victims where they're being trafficked. We do that consistently. We've been doing that for a number of years. Our final way that we fight trafficking, and this is our most expensive thing that we do, but it's also incredibly impactful, and that's our restorative care program. We have victims of and survivors of human exploitation, sexual exploitation. They can live with us in our safe home for up to 2 years, and they receive complete and total wraparound services and care, including case management, clinical psychological counseling, addiction recovery services, education, exactly what they need. The Taylor is programmed to them so that they can step into a life of independence with the risk of being re-exploited greatly reduced, hopefully to the point of zero.
Yeah, and sadly, this is just such a big problem here in our community. David, I want to toss things over to you and talk a little more about these van tours that Courtney touched upon. I understand that they drive through, their routes can be in suspected areas of human trafficking. So what type of work, what's the purpose of this van tour? What type of work happens there, and how can people get involved with these tours?
Yeah, so we want to make sure the community is aware that trafficking is happening in our city, and people are driving by venues where people are being sold. Like you said, Houston is one of the top hubs for human trafficking. There is a lot of trafficking and prostitution that happens out in the visible street, but there's also a lot happening online and in other businesses that would disguise themselves as legitimate businesses, but their model is for trafficking and selling women. And so throughout Houston, we have many different types of these venues. They're always changing. And so one of our things is we want to do our research, do our work of understanding how these places are operating and shine a light on it and educate the community so they know what to look for, so they know that, hey, if I see something out of the ordinary, I'm going to be an active citizen. I'm going to reach out to someone. I'm going to, see something, say something. That's so important because we've seen so many times people have a bad feeling about something and then they don't say anything, and we discover, oh, this was going on for 5 years. This was going on for 10 years and no one said anything. So that's what we want to change. And to what you said, this doesn't just impact girls and women. Boys and men are also sold on the streets too. So Absolutely. I guess what you're saying is these vans, everyday citizens can get on these vans, and these vans go through these communities where these suspected businesses are operating, and they're identified. You're not going into these businesses and bringing survivors out. No,
Okay.
this van tour is strictly
Okay.
educational. We're showing you what we've uncovered online. We're showing you just kind of how these places operate using case studies of historical cases that have happened in Houston. And it's really educational awareness. They're very safe. You know, we never go with the intention to create violence or stir problems. You know, we really want this to be an educational tool for the community.
Okay. We know, too, through this type of work, many times victims of human trafficking, survivors, are initially groomed or lured into what they think is a legitimate job. How does your organization, I'm not sure if Courtney or David, if you want to answer this, how does your organization help survivors of trafficking once they're out?
That's a great question. Thank you. One of the ways that we help them is we try and meet them exactly where they are. We have assessments that we provide. This is for our safe home. We have assessments where we see where they are on the scale as far as maybe complex PTSD goes, other mental health needs, their physical health needs, their educational needs. We try and assess so that we can tailor the program to meet their needs. As you can imagine, years of physical, sexual abuse, emotional abuse, it takes its toll. These precious individuals, they need individualized care. We want them to know that they have a voice. They've been told in general for so long, they don't have a choice. They don't have a voice, that they're actually a thing to be used. We want to restore dignity. We want to restore humanity. So those are for women who come into our program. Now, for the women that we see on the streets, that we meet in the brothels or the cantinas, the sex shops or the strip clubs, we meet them with the love of Jesus. We tell them, we see you, we're here for you. We're not coming at them in a harsh way. We just want to let them know we're a safe presence, so that when she is ready to exit a life of being sexually exploited, she knows who she can turn to resource her, to give her the help that she wants and needs to exit that life.
Yeah, absolutely. I know many times victims of human trafficking, as we talked about, are groomed, and so it's hard for them to understand that they do have a voice and they can come out of this, and that there is support. You know, we talk about looking for people who they can trust. Not always is that trust found within their nuclear environment. Sometimes it requires branching out, whether it be to an organization like yours that has a spiritual, religious underlying, or another type of organizations. But there are resources there for them. I want to ask you, Courtney, about the Bissonnette tract. That's about a mile from where I'm standing right now. It's about a mile from our station here along the Southwest Freeway. That area is known for prostitution. We have done several reports on this area, on this problem. When we've been able to talk to Houston police about this specific matter, they say most of these cases now are actually happening online. But again, you drive down along Bissonnette, you see it happening right there. What would be your response to HPD and other law enforcement agencies who say that just that, it's not there, it's more online?
Right. That's an interesting point that you're making. So about a year ago, the city, we actually had been praying about this for a while, that Bissonnette would be shut down. The city came in and tried to get things to stop. The good news is that has happened in measure. Now, Zach, you make a good point. There are still women out there. But the numbers are greatly reduced on the women that you're seeing going along the street of Bissonnette. They're still there. It's just not as in great a number. What we have seen is that the women are more scattered now throughout the city. They are also going online more because of the police presence, because of the barricades on Bissonnette. They're still being trafficked. It's happening in more frequently in different venues. So our teams, our intervention teams, are trying to find the women, and they're being successful because they've built relationships over time. They can text with some of these women, where are you? so that they can go see them and provide them with resources and kindnesses. So yeah, it's still happening on Bissonnette, just not nearly as great the numbers that it was.
Yeah. David, children and teens, as we know, are most vulnerable when it comes to human trafficking, whether that be sex or labor. What advice do you have for parents who fear their child might end up, another statistic, being lured into some sort of ring?
I would say that's a healthy fear to have, because there's a lot of parents that think this will never happen to my child. And we get so many calls from people, that never thought this would happen. They have a great relationship, with their child, and then they end up in a trafficking situation. So it is a real problem that we have to navigate as parents. I have a daughter myself, and so I'm a big contributor to this conversation. I would say, number one, online safety is critical. This is how a lot of people are reaching our younger demographics through TikTok, social media, even like online gaming. It's so critical that as parents, we understand, what social media accounts your children are on, who are they talking to online, making sure they know what trafficking looks like, because there's been so many teenagers that have been trafficked, and they've only thought, oh, I was just working in prostitution, and they don't even know what trafficking looks like. And so even educating our youth, we often tell people like, hey, I know this is a mature conversation, but we're really asking parents that, hey, if your child is 12, 13, 14 years old, you need to start having these conversations about online safety, sex trafficking. The pornography component is a big one too. A lot of these brothels that are local in Houston advertise on the porn sites. And so it's just a growing problem that I see younger people having to navigate. And so online safety is so critical. Know your kids' logins, know their usernames, know who they're talking to. Those are the most important things right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I so much appreciate you both coming on the show, Courtney and David, with Elijah's Rising. This has been a wonderful conversation, a heartbreaking topic, but knowing there are solutions there and resources available makes the world of a difference. Thank you both very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. When you head on over to click2houston.com and search community, in the search bar, you will find the link to learn more about this organization. You'll also find information on where to report suspicious activity.